Tony Blair has now entered the debate about women and gender and safe spaces. It's complex, it's multifaceted, it's nuanced, and it needs unpacking. So Tony Blair has made a clear statement today about men and women based on biological attributes. It's like going into a biology class when you listen to Tony Blair, and he practically uses the word obviously. He doesn't exactly use the word obviously, but the tone of his statement has obvious written all over it. And in a way, I think I think he falls foul of the danger of using that sort of obvious language. Because if something is obvious, you don't need to say it, and if something is not obvious, you're wrong. And I think he's wrong. And the traditional clear-cut obvious view aligns with the notion that gender is strictly binary based on one's anatomical features at birth. Rosie Duffield, a Labour MP, has faced a significant backlash for her views on gender, particularly her definition of women as adult human females, which many see as excluding trans women, and Duffield has avoided certain political engagements, hustings, due to the controversy. Lord Cashman has said that she's frightened, she's frit, to use Mrs. Thatcher's Lincolnshire expression. But this indicates the sensitivity and the divisiveness of the debate. And the debate was made significantly worse by Nicola Sturgeon's stance and legislation that she pushed forward that people can self-identify as men or as women, which allows individuals to define their own gender and advocates a sort of an area of grey between the three clear, distinct positions: male, female, and transgender. And there is a crucial step between recognizing and respecting the identities of individuals, whether these are transgender, non-binary, or conventional gender-assigned definitions. Sturgeon's position aligns with progressive views on gender identity, emphasizing personal autonomy and inclusivity, but it gets into trouble when it comes to public spaces and public safety. And it comes down to a debate about changing rooms and bathrooms and loos. And this debate was anticipated back in the 60s, and there was a reprint of a book called In Transit by Bridget Brophy, and I did the front cover for it. And I'm rather proud of that association. And she discusses precisely the issue of public access and safety, which loo to use in an airport, in transit. So it's there. The debate has been around for over 50 years. and now suddenly it's become a matter of concern. J.K. Rowling, the author, the Harry Potter author, who borrowed, or seems to have borrowed, so much from Ursula K. Le Guin, another wonderful feminist author from the 1960s, whose views were staggeringly fluid, and I love her writing. J.K. Rowling, she also writes, incidentally, about a wizarding school in the 1960s and the 1970s. And J.K. Rowling, who writes about another form of wizarding school, has expressed concerns about the implications of self-identification for biological women, and she argues that allowing individuals to self-identify their gender without any medical or legal oversight could compromise the privacy and the safety of biological women, especially in spaces traditionally reserved for biological females, such as bathrooms, changing rooms, loos. And her stance has been supported and heavily criticised, and that reflects the polarised nature of the debate. Now, there are issues, therefore, of safety and of privacy which ought to be addressed by the governments in Scotland, in England, in Westminster, in Northern Ireland, in Wales, and the debate about self-identification doesn't really come into that. That's a debate about safety and privacy and respecting the privacy of individuals and respecting and ensuring the safety of individuals. So whether somebody self-identifies or whether somebody doesn't self-identify, no one should be exploited or endangered. So that's the first point. The second point is the recognition and rights, and proponents of self-identification emphasize the importance of recognizing and validating the identities of transgender and non-binary individuals. They argue that requiring medical or legal processes for gender recognition can be dehumanizing and create unnecessary barriers. I think that is something that needs to be looked at through the prism of the failures of the health system in the UK. And without acknowledging that, that conversation cannot move on, because to add further burdens to the NHS to identify, to validate transgender and non-binary individuals is to push the impossible and the inflexible. So the recognition and the rights, if the systems for recognizing people don't work, then we have to look at a different route. And the third thing is about ethics and philosophy, biological versus gender identity. It can be seen as the crux of the debate, but it's actually the stuff for university discussion. The distinction between biological sex and gender identity. And while biological sex is typically seen as immutable and binary, gender identity is understood to be a spectrum that encompasses a variety of experiences and self-conceptions. So the issue goes beyond safety and privacy. And the problem is that people who are involved in this debate move beyond the different spheres of discussion, from beyond the legal and medical sphere to, or from beyond the legal sphere to the medical failures, the failure of the NHS because it's too big and it's too inflexible, and to the university sphere. And it's that mix-up of these three different spheres of discussion that has caused, I think, the problem. And it goes beyond safety and privacy to questions about social justice, equality, and human rights. So human rights are about ensuring transgender individuals have the same rights and recognitions as cisgender individuals, but this is about fundamental freedom and dignity, the dignity of human beings. The social acceptance is about society being open to accepting and understanding diversity And that's something that has been ongoing since the 1960s and should be encouraged. The medical and legal practices and processes are about appropriate medical and legal actions. And at the moment, both the medical system in the UK and the legal system in the UK are fractured, and this is an additional burden that a broken system is finding very difficult to deal with, and we need to be very careful that so what the law tends to do is to, or what Westminster tends to do is to move things elsewhere so that other people have to deal with this. And it's not possible to move this problem into the medical and the legal sphere because there simply isn't room. And Westminster and Holyrood's attempt to deal with this themselves has been inadequate and clumsy, and that is where people like J.K. Rowling have stepped into the void, and her concerns about safety and privacy. The public debate finds it very difficult to deal with nuance, and to respect both the rights of transgender individuals and the safety concerns of biological women and biological men. And the balance is changing to foster a society that values both inclusivity and safety. But at the moment we're in a period ourselves of transition, and the aggression that is provoked is ugly. But people need to meet. People need to meet transgender and people who are progressing through this transition phase themselves, and it's the fear of the unknown in so many ways which is provoking these extreme and divisive responses. And if Rosie Duffield has such a clear understanding, and she should be doing hustings. She should be. She wants to be a politician. She is a politician. She should not be intimidated, and she should be protected. But public meetings should certainly be taking place, and if they can't take place with her, in a physically in a room, then she should be present on camera. There are ways to do this, and there are ways to get hustings to function, and we have the technology, and we should be employing that technology. I think it would be a great shame to see hustings entirely with on cameras, but COVID has taught us that we can use technology, and we should certainly be using technology rather than ducking the debates.